Hello, I'm Jovan Johnson with the IMF Tracker. This week, local companies to benefit from tax incentive. Action plan for reforms in securities sector expected by month end. IMF revises forecast for global economic growth. These stories in a moment, but first, our question of the week. What is a saviour plan? Stay tuned, the answer comes up at the end of the program. Companies which increase the number of workers during the current fiscal year will be allowed a tax credit equal to a percentage of the payroll levies for new employees. That is one of the specific elements to be included in the Omnibus Tax Incentives Act, a bill which is expected to be tabled in Parliament by month end. Under the Omnibus Act, there will be no ministerial discretion in granting tax incentives. Sustained and rising unemployment has been a central theme in Jamaica's letters of intent to the IMF. In its updated Memorandum of Economic and Financial Policies sent to the IMF, the government said all incentives outside the Omnibus Tax Incentives Act will be cancelled. Under the new law, companies which choose pre-existing incentive schemes will not be entitled to new incentives. Meanwhile, for mega projects that are growth-enhancing, specific tax credits could be provided with parliamentary approval. The government has committed to having a comprehensive action plan with specific reform deadlines for the securities dealers sector by month end. The reforms are among the structural benchmarks set out under the 4-year agreement between Jamaica and the IMF. According to an updated Memorandum of Economic and Financial Policies, the plan will cover legal and regulatory frameworks. It will also deal with effective monitoring by the Financial Services Commission and the Bank of Jamaica. By December, the authorities are expected to amend the Securities Act and the Income Tax Law to remove double taxation and reform the Companies Act. The authorities are also expected to commit to a timetable for raising and then removing the cap on investments on foreign securities by the end of 2016. The IMF has revised its forecast for global economic growth. It now expects global growth of 2.9% this year, a cut of 0.3% from July's estimate. Despite improvements in advanced economies such as the US, the IMF warned that a slower pace of expansion in emerging economies such as Brazil, China and India was holding back global expansion. The fund is warning that if a political standoff in the US results in the economic powerhouse defaulting on its debt payments, there could be serious damage to the global economy. And to end our program this week, the answer to this week's question. Saviour plan refers to the situation in which management and employees borrow money to invest in their failing company in an attempt to save it. After a saviour plan is put in place, one could say that the company is employee-owned. And that's where we end our trek this week on the IMF Tracker. I'm Jovan Johnson.